I'm Bryony Smith. I've raised Dutch since 1991. I began as a 10-year-old youth member. I started with torts and I've expanded to blacks and blues. I've had all the colors except for chinchilla now. Dutch are a compact breed. They're a 4-class breed, so they're shown as senior and juniors. They have a compact body type with a short round body, a nice well-rounded head, and a nice stocky ear. They're a marked breed. They come in 7 colors in combination with white. This is a black. They also come in blue, chocolate, chinchilla, gray, steel, and tortoise. They have flyback fur, which should be short and snappy to show the markings off. And the marking pattern consists for most of the points on the rabbit, but the body type, the fur, and the color is still very important to give life and character to the markings. Dutch markings. First we have the blaze. This is a marking on the rabbit's face. It should be an even white wedge. The blaze is combined with the cheeks, which round to but not into the whisker bed. Should be perfect circles, not extending to or hooking under the jaw. The cheeks also round around the head to complete the neck, which is also an even white wedge that runs between the rabbit's ears. Ideally, the neck and the blaze would join between the ears to form a hairline. There are no points allotted to this. The rabbit is not penalized for not having a hairline. On the body, the Dutch has a saddle across the back. This should be placed just behind the shoulders. It should be straight and even. It continues to the undercut on the underside of the rabbit, which should run right below the elbows. It should also be straight and even. The markings on the rabbit's feet are called the stops. They should be a third of the length of the foot from the toes to the hock. They should be straight and even. On a rabbit with good bone, that will appear to be almost square. A well-rounded head and a nice compact body is essential to showing off the markings of the Dutch and painting them in the most ideal light. On the Dutch and see some of the differences between them. This rabbit on my left here shows good graduation with the blaze. You see the blaze is wider at the bottom and narrows at the top, but it does tend to trail off a little bit towards the top of the rabbit. It doesn't have that nice correct peak that you would like to see. This blue here also has a nice medium wide shape to the wedge, but it tends to be a little bit uneven as one cheek is lower than the other, so it tends to give kind of an offset appearance to the blaze. It does have a little bit better peak at the top. It also shows good graduation as it narrows towards the rabbit's ears.
I'm ready.
We'll look at necks and hairlines in a couple of these Dutch. This rabbit has about a half of a neck. If it's completely full, we call it a full neck. This is actually the only marking that doesn't have to be present on a Dutch. It does not result in disqualification. This rabbit we see here has a better even white wedge to that neck. It's still a little bit ragged on the sides, but this does continue between the ears. You can see the hairline that joins the blaze. You don't want to separate the ears too far when you're checking for the hairline, as you can distort the width of the blaze and the neck marking. Okay, we're going to look at some stops on the Dutch. You can see this guy's right stop is very straight. This is right at a third of the length of his foot. His left stop is kind of cut at an angle. We call this biased. You hear a judge talking about a biased stop, it means one is at an angle instead of straight across the foot. This rabbit here has pretty good placement to his stops. They are a third of the length of the foot, but as you can see, this is what we call a ragged stop. The color isn't even, it forms a ragged line instead of a straight line. If the color extends between the toes and connects, it forms a split stop. You can't say that the rabbit has a split stop without actually spreading the toes and looking to see that the color does run between those and connect with the color on the foot. This rabbit does have long stops. You can tell that the white extends farther than a third of the length of the foot, although they are straight and they are fairly even in length. The three things to remember with stops are length, evenness, and straightness. Like any compact breed with a low head mount, a Dutch is initially posed with the front feet even with the eyes and the rear feet even with the stifle. When you're evaluating the markings, you want to make sure that you're not stretching the rabbit outside of a normal pose. The saddle is very easy to evaluate. You can just lift the ears a bit and see the line that runs across the body. When you look at the rabbit's neck, you do want to make sure that you're not lifting the ears above horizontal, you're not pulling the ears out to the side. Just lift the ears to a natural pose and you can see where that neck fur lies. Sometimes it's easiest to evaluate the evenness of the cheeks with the rabbit's on its back. You can also get a good look at the blaze this way. You do want to make sure to keep a light hand on the rabbit's ears so you're not wrapping your hand around the head or maybe tugging back at the cheeks and distorting the image there. The undercut can be a bit more difficult to evaluate. You essentially want to see the rabbit as it would look were it posed on a glass table from underneath. You don't want to stretch the rabbit out, lay it on its back. You can kind of brace it against your body if you need to. And if it wants to kind of dangle its feet down in front of its belly, you can raise those to eye level and get a good look at the undercut. The stops can also be viewed with the rabbit in your hands. You can hold the rabbit upside down and take a look at those stops and see how they balance. Some people like to check the evenness, the length of the stops. When you do that, you can simply hold the feet next to each other and check for the evenness of the stops. You don't want to check the undercut with the rabbit stretched out, as this will distort the rabbit's undercut and perhaps make it look wavier or more biased than it truly is. You return the rabbit to a normal pose and give it a good look over to get a nice general impression of the way the body structure, the fur, and the markings all come together to create the perfect Dutch.